The Vauxhall Corsa is Britain's biggest selling car. In 2022, it overtook the Ford Fiesta to become the nation's favourite, and it's also celebrating another huge milestone. This year, the Corsa turns 40 years old. It's nearly as old as me.
To celebrate, Vauxhall has released this, the Corsa E Anniversary Edition. Based on the standard car, it costs £31,000, is limited to 1,000 units and comes with a unique interior. But what really sets it apart from its predecessors is this Corsa runs on batteries.
But how true is it to the original Corsa spirit? And why do people go so mad for these things? Well, to find out, we've got the old gang back together again. Every single generation of the Corsa. And we're going somewhere special. Back into time. It's the year 1982, and Princess Diana has given birth to a baby boy named William. Ozzy Osbourne has just bitten the head off a bat on stage in front of people, and the UK is full of some pretty decent cars, but absolutely no Vauxhall Corsa. Instead, we had this, the Vauxhall Nova, which incidentally was known as the Vauxhall Corsa in Europe. Apparently, Vauxhall didn't want to call it the Corsa in the UK because the word Corsa, to them, sounded a bit too much like coarser. In other words, too coarse, and coarse isn't such a great word in their eyes. Ironically though, the Nova/Corsa was manufactured in Spain, where the word Nova means no go. Can't really win, can you? It wasn't the quickest car in the world, the Nova. It used a 1-litre engine that made 44 horsepower, but it was driven by some quick people. Ayrton Senna learned how to rally in a Nova, and Colin McRae won the 1988 Scottish Rally Championship in one of these. I'll tell you what, sitting in this brings back so much nostalgia as well. It's not the most ergonomic car in the world, shall we say. The steering wheel seems to be offset at a weird angle and also twisted. The pedals seem to be off to the right somehow. And look at the size of these pillars. They're so skinny, you wouldn't want to get in an accident in one of these cars because it would just fold up like a tin can. But I tell you what, look at the visibility. You can see so much. As for the interior, well, basic is probably the best word to describe it. You've got a tape player, for goodness sake, and also some storage space down there for your cassettes. Let's try out these brakes and see what they're like. Yeah, pretty much non-existent. But I think that's all part of the charm, isn't it?
Here's a bit of trivia for you. Some of the original models came with a really cool tartan interior that ultimately went on to become the inspiration for a couple of cool items on the new Corsa.
Every 40th edition Vauxhall Corsa comes with 4 pairs of these bad boys, tartan socks. Pretty snazzy, and they say Vauxhall along the side. Plus, they come with this little presentation box with a nice little note inside which says, with these elegant socks, whose timeless tartans match the trim of the original car, you too, like the Vauxhall Corsa, will never go out of fashion. Not sure about that, but let's have a look inside. Yeah, this is pretty swanky, isn't it? It does kind of match the original car with the tartan seats front and rear. Actually, let's see how closely they match the socks. Not exactly. The seats are a bit lighter, the socks are a bit darker, but it's not a bad attempt, is it? Apart from that, it also has a 40 badge on the dashboard, which shows that this is the 40th anniversary car, and 0001, which shows this is the first of 1,000 special edition cars Vauxhall are gonna make. This one is gonna be pretty exclusive. While we're here, why don't we compare the brand new car with the one that started it all? I think the first thing you'll notice is the size difference. The Corsa E is huge in comparison to the OG. The second thing you'll notice is that that car is a 3-door, whereas this is only available as a 5-door. Most people in modern times don't want a 3-door car for practicality reasons. You'll also notice that there's so much complexity in the surfacing of this brand new example. There's loads of creases and curves. There's a lot going on pretty much anywhere you look. However, look at the Nova. It's pretty much just a box on wheels. What I will say is that there are a couple of items that have been carried over from this car to this one. Particularly, if we start with the bonnet, you'll see there's a slight crease along the center, replicated just here on the brand new Corsa. And on the outer edges of the bonnet, you also get creases here and here. So it's almost like Vauxhall are paying homage to the car that started it all.
The Nova then, having started us on this journey, was a real inspiration. But Vauxhall had bigger ambitions for its replacement, and in 1993, they retired the Nova. But as we said goodbye to this old school legend, we said hello, officially, to the first real Corsa.
This is the Generation B, the first car in the UK to use the Corsa name. And actually, this is the most important Corsa to me by far, because this generation of Corsa is the car that I used to pass my driving test. I haven't driven this car since 1997, but it's all coming back. This was, by far, at the time, the best car to pass your driving test in, because the visibility is incredible, particularly at the back where you could see out the rear windows, but also because of the size, it was incredibly maneuverable, and it allowed you to pull off those all-important maneuvers, like, you know, handbrake turns. No, but in all seriousness, you could reverse around corners and parallel park in this thing with absolute precision. And I remember it being head and shoulders above anything else that I was driving around that time.
The Corsa B is significantly more stylish than the car that came before it. Those square edges were replaced with a far more curvy design, and Vauxhall even pushed the boat out with better technology. Some models were available with ABS brakes, and if you were rich enough, you could even protect yourself with a driver's airbag. Passengers clearly weren't so important back in those days. They even made multiple body styles. In Brazil, they offered a saloon, and in Australia, there was even a convertible.
In the UK, we only ever got the hatchback, but that didn't stop people going absolutely nuts for this thing. By the time 1998 rolled around, the year after I passed my test in this was not only the best-selling car in the UK, it was the best-selling car on the planet. I owe a debt of gratitude to this car, I think, because this is the thing that set me off on a path to freedom and independence, and actually on a path to becoming a motoring journalist. Without the Corsa B, what would I be doing today? Goodness only knows.
And that success served as the platform for the launch of the next car in the lineup, the Corsa C. It was the year 2000. Sony had just released its new gaming console, the PlayStation 2. Humans started living on the International Space Station, and the Y2K bug destroyed the planet. Oh no, wait, that last thing didn't actually happen. What did happen was the Corsa grew up. Literally, they used a brand new platform, which meant more interior space, and the infotainment system, although pretty basic, gave you the option of a sat-nav and a telephone, options previously only available on more luxurious models. They even upgraded the safety features with driver's airbags as standard, and took steps to prolong the car's life with a fully galvanized body to protect against rust. Having sold 600,000 examples, it was another slam dunk for Vauxhall. All there was left to do was to count the money, and then do it all again with the Corsa D.
And here it is. It's even bigger and more spacious than the previous generations, which is quite handy, especially if you had a family back then. I remember this car at the time feeling a bit more aspirational and grown up. Sitting in it now, maybe not so much. The seats are incredibly hard. I'm not sure what they're made of, but I wouldn't want to sit here for any extended amount of time. And there is quite a lot of plastic, especially on the dashboard. But apart from that, it's a nice cabin to sit in. And incidentally, this is the generation of Corsa that started Vauxhall's fondness, shall we say, for sharks. Now, here's the story. A designer who was working on this particular item here, the glove box cover, drew a shark for his son. His son said, "Dad, please work that into every single Corsa you build." So he did. And then he took it to Vauxhall and said, "Hey guys, look, I've actually managed to sneak in a hidden shark in the glove box. Is that okay?" Vauxhall loved it. They said, "Cool, incorporate it." And from that moment on, pretty much every single Corsa has a shark hidden somewhere in the vehicle. Unfortunately, there isn't one in this car because it's a diesel, and for some reason, the diesel Corsa wasn't deemed worthy of a shark. But that didn't stop people lapping it up. Over 700,000 examples of this generation of Corsa were sold.
Let's fast forward to 2014. Ebola became a thing. Oh, and Gangnam Style blows up the internet with 2 billion views. But it wasn't all bad news, because Vauxhall released the Generation E, which became the most well-rounded example of the Corsa yet. Not only was it better looking, with sharper lines and more intricate detailing, it was also packed with next-generation technology. For the first time, we saw front-mounted cameras that scanned the road ahead, enabling traffic sign recognition to tell you when to slow down. It had lane keep assist to keep you on the straight and narrow, and inside, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto were baked into its 7-inch display as standard. Even to this day, it was modern, well-equipped, and fun to drive. It's fair to say there aren't many Super Minis better than the Corsa E, except the Corsa E.
Here we are back in the present day and in the Corsa E. E for electric. Although, incidentally, this isn't the Corsa E, it's the Corsa F, as in the F generation, the 6th child in the Corsa family. I've already given you a full review of this car on the channel, but I thought, while I'm here, I'll refresh your memory and mine about what this car's like to drive, not just in isolation, but in comparison to the cars that came before it.
What we're looking at is a vastly different car to the one that hit our streets in 1982. This is the first Corsa to run on batteries. A 40 kilowatt-hour set with an official range of 222 miles and a charger that can top it up at 100 kilowatts for an 80% charge in 30 minutes.
And with big changes to the propulsion system, you get big changes to the way this car drives and feels as well. Like all electric cars, the party trick is the refinement and the smoothness. You put your foot down, and instead of hearing that charismatic hum of an internal combustion engine, you get just a hint of a whine from the electric motor at the front driving the front wheels, and just a little rush of air sweeping over the car. Apart from that, a little bit of road noise, but nothing else really. It's so quiet, it's so refined, and so smooth.
The interior has come on leaps and bounds too. From the boxy minimalism of the Nova to the cartoonish chunkiness of the D, we now have a contemporary, user-friendly and surprisingly high-tech cabin that's a joy to use.
This one follows the trend of most modern cars in that it tries to incorporate as many of its features as possible in this touchscreen, which means that accessing certain features can be a little bit tricky, particularly the heating, ventilation and climate controls, which are partly buried in this screen, which means you have to press a button and then navigate to the fan directions, for example, to blow the aircon in the particular direction you want. But it does have a physical volume knob, and it does have a lot of really useful mod cons as well. For example, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, plus all the safety features you'd expect from a modern vehicle, including autonomous emergency braking, so you don't crash into people when you're not paying attention, lane keep assist, and also even a little SOS button in the ceiling to call for help when you've stacked it. As for the performance, do you know what? I'm actually quite impressed by this car. You can definitely feel it's heavier, and going through the corners, it does carry a lot of mass, but it manages its weight really, really nicely, and it's quick in a straight line as well. This car will do 0 to 62 in 8.1 seconds. It's even quicker than the previous generation Corsa GSI. It's not quite as quick as the Corsa VXR, but word on the street is there is another Corsa VXR on the way, and that will also be powered by an electric motor. It's one of those cars that feels quite grown up and quite sophisticated to drive, and I think that reflects in the evolution of the Corsa as a whole. It's come on in leaps and bounds, and you can really see that with each generation they've improved the car and just made it more and more appealing every single time.
Whatever your relationship with the Corsa, there's no denying it's a car that's touched millions of people over its lifespan. Often, and in my case, giving people their first taste of freedom on the road. Its evolution in many ways has been dramatic, but while the latest car, especially in electric form, is a big departure from the original Nova, the Corsa is still the same at its core, and very much a true British institution.